director of the investigation of the American Medical Association, am I right?
Yes.
And he's going to speak this afternoon on chiropractic.
Right. Dr. Senovitz told me it was all right if I take my coat off. I'm going to certainly join you. We said the uniform of the day was shirt sleeves. I'm going to be in the uniform. For those who were here this morning, I'm awfully happy to be back, and for you who weren't, I think I ought to at least repeat how happy the AMA is that Ball State University has taken on this project here. I am certain it's unique. I know of no other college or university that gives a health quackery course for credit. I think it's just a wonderful position for this university to be in, and it's certainly a compliment to Dr. Bach, Dr. Sinovitz, and the rest of the people here on the staff for organizing this program. This is one of my favorite subjects, and I don't like to hesitate to get at it, so that's what we'll do. In 1963, the American Medical Association thought health quackery important enough that its Board of Trustees appointed a committee on quackery made up of 5 physicians who are knowledgeable in the field. That committee's first mandate was and is to take a good look at the chiropractic problem, mount an educational program on chiropractic. The question may have crossed your mind as to just why medicine is attaching such a high priority to an education program on the cult of chiropractic. And as you know, it is a cult, about as far removed from scientific medicine in the diagnosis and treatment of human illness as it is possible to get. Before we try to answer that question, let's take a brief look at what chiropractic really is. The 1960 census listed 14,360 chiropractors in the United States. But the American Chiropractic Association claims there are 25,000, and the public relations firm for the chiropractor says there are 35,000. At any rate, they are the largest organized group of irregular practitioners, to be complimentary. We call them no worse than irregular practitioners. All states but Mississippi and Louisiana license chiropractors in an attempt to regulate their practice. As a result of this licensing action by the state legislatures, many people, including those who are well informed, vaguely believe that a chiropractor is a genuine medical doctor, a spinal specialist whose training differs somewhat from, but is not significantly inferior to, that of a medical specialist. For example, a recent issue of Life magazine carried a feature article on a criminal prosecution. The headline read, "The Doctor Who Was Convicted of Murder." You had to get well into the small print of the story before you learned that the doctor was a chiropractor. Too few people realize that chiropractors reject the findings of modern medicine and the allied sciences about the cause and treatment of diseases because these findings conflict with the ideas of Daniel David Palmer. Palmer was a Davenport, Iowa grocer and fish peddler who dabbled in animal magnetism, a popular form of quackery in 19th century America. Practitioners of animal magnetism alleged to be a unique group of human beings whose personal magnetism was so great that it gave them the power to cure disease. Palmer rented an office in Davenport and practiced magnetic healing. In 1895, he announced a great discovery. His son, B.J. Palmer, described it to a Wisconsin court in 1910 when testifying in a case involving charges of illegal practice of medicine against a chiropractor. In his dad's office building, said B.J., there was a janitor named Harvey Lillard who had been deaf for 17 years. One day, Harvey dropped by to discuss his problem with healer Palmer. Asked how his deafness had occurred, Lillard, who throughout the interview seemed to have no trouble hearing Palmer's questions, replied, "I was in a stoop-cramped position, and while in that position I felt something pop and heard a crack in my back." He went deaf within 2 minutes, he said, and hadn't been able to hear a thing since. Palmer laid the deaf man on a cot, looked him over, and noticed a great subluxation, a misalignment on the back, allegedly causing a visible lump in Harvey's back. This is, again, B.J.'s testimony in the Wisconsin court. Father reasoned out the fundamental thought of this thing. which was that if something went wrong in that back and caused deafness, the reduction of that subluxation should cure it. Daniel David Palmer gave Harvey's subluxation a well-aimed whack, and according to BJ's testimony, the bump was adjusted, was reduced, and within 10 minutes Harvey had his hearing and has had it ever since. Animal magnetist Palmer and his son BJ apparently did not know that the nerves controlling hearing are contained in the head only and do not even reach the spine. Palmer thought he had made the breakthrough that eluded the greatest medical minds of the ages. He had found the simple cause of all human disease. Disease, he decided, is caused by misaligned vertebrae. These misalignments or subluxations impinge on the nerves that issue from the spine, thus causing illness. Palmer believed it in 1895, and chiropractors claim it today. One cause of all disease is spinal subluxation, and one cure for all disease, a spinal adjustment. You may have heard the argument that medicine opposes chiropractic because chiropractors are competing with physicians economically, cutting into their practice. This, I think, is a lot of nonsense. If anything, chiropractors add to the physician's load, because it is the physician who has to come along, pick up the pieces, and repair the damage done by the chiropractor directly or by his part in delaying proper medical care. The reason medicine is trying to do something about chiropractic is the same reason it is trying to do something about everything else in the field of quackery, namely prohibit poorly trained individuals from performing functions for which they are totally unqualified, and thus adding hazards to the people's health. And you might ask what this medicine hoped to accomplish by pointing out the inadequacies of chiropractic. Primarily, I think, the so-called chiropractic colleges, of which there are about a dozen, must be exposed as the substandard institutions they are, not worthy of consideration by the young people of our country. At the same time, education of the public, we think, will alert the people to the evils of chiropractic. We have the job underway. To go into detail would take too much time, but I would like to tell you about a few things that have been done. The so-called chiropractic colleges claim that a student, for admission, must have a high school diploma or its equivalent, whatever that may be. The staff of the Department of Investigation took a try at finding out. 7 letters purporting to be from students seeking admission to 7 different chiropractic schools were written. Each of these letters stated specifically that the applicant was not a high school graduate, and each on its face exhibited a pretty fair degree of illiteracy. Would you believe it, 5 of the 7 schools accepted the applicants for admission, at least on a conditional basis. For your information, Lincoln College of Chiropractic in Indianapolis was one of the 7 so-called colleges to which the letters were sent. The school replied to the ludicrous letter of inquiry by forwarding to the writer application forms, catalogs, and other promotional literature. But it did not accept the application after it was unable to receive a high school equivalency certificate from the applicant. This little leaflet, which you will have in the packet, which will be given to you later, entitled "Did You Know That?" has been particularly effective. All it includes is a set of 8 uncontroverted facts about chiropractic and the sources of information to support those facts. In many instances, chiropractic's own words. I'll read only a few examples. Fact number 1 states that chiropractic is a method of treatment or system in which the practitioners adhere to the doctrine that disease can be cured by the manual manipulation of the spine. Chiropractors are prohibited by law from prescribing drugs or performing surgery. Fact number 2 states that chiropractic schools are not accredited by any recognized educational accrediting body in the United States. Fact number 5 states the majority of instructors in chiropractic schools are not trained or qualified as teachers of the basic sciences and do not possess college degrees. Fact number 8 states chiropractors are not allowed to practice in any hospital accredited by the Joint Commission on Accreditation of Hospitals. Let's take another look at fact number 5, which states that The majority of instructors in chiropractic schools are not trained or qualified as teachers of the basic sciences and do not possess college degrees. How do we document such a statement? In our sources listed in the leaflet are two statements. The first is a direct quote from a memorandum prepared by the Director of Education of the American Chiropractic Association, presented at the ACA meeting June 15, 1964. And the memorandum says, and I'll quote, "Too many instructors," he's talking about chiropractic schools, "are teaching the basic sciences without having any advanced or graduate training in these sciences. Too many instructors are not trained or qualified as teachers nor masters of their fields, resulting in slavish devotion to textbook teaching and instruction considerably below the level of post-college professional education." The other statement in the booklet is as follows. According to recent catalogs of schools of chiropractic that list the names and degrees of their faculty members, more than 50% of the faculty of these schools of chiropractic do not have generally recognized college degrees. Recently, the staff of the Department of Investigation completed a survey of the faculties of the 13 chiropractic schools in the United States and Canada. The results of that survey were published last September in the Journal of the AMA. The survey pointed out that in the latest edition of academic degrees, published by the Office of Education of the U.S. Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, the DC, or Doctor of Chiropractic degree, was listed as spurious. Spurious is defined in academic degrees as those degrees granted by degree-granting mills, diploma mills. Mind you, this is the world's greatest authority on academic degrees. It is the Bible for accreditation of a recognized academic degree. This is published by the Office of Education of the Department of HEW. Excuse me. With this in mind, I thought you might like to know some of the things the surveys show. First, let's take a look at the Palmer Chiropractic School in Davenport, Iowa, the largest of all the chiropractic schools, having a student enrollment of approximately 1,100. As listed in the Palmer catalog, 21 of the 29 members of Palmer's faculty do not have any recognized four-year academic degree following their name, and 27 of the 29 faculty members list the spurious DC degree. In discussing the Palmer School, I'd be remiss if I didn't make another point. Palmer's 1,100 students and 29 so-called faculty members make a student-instructor ratio of nearly 38 students to each instructor. We checked the ratio at the medical school at Indiana University, where there are 209 full-time faculty members for 818 students, a ratio of one faculty member to each 3.9 students. I thought you would like to know also the results of our survey of the so-called faculty of the Indianapolis Chiropractic School. It lists 23 on the faculty, 9 of whom have no recognized academic degrees. And one of the 14 listing recognized academic degrees turned out to have an unconfirmed degree, Bachelor of Laws, from a correspondence school that never has been accredited by the Council on Legal Education of the American Bar Association. The same individual also lists a spurious DPT degree. I think this stands for Doctor of Physiotherapy, although I'm not sure, from a defunct diploma mill in Denver called the University of Healing Arts. The president of the school, incidentally, lists no recognized academic degree, yet lists 4 sets of letters after his name: DC, PHC, FICC, and CCR. I can try to interpret these. Doctor of Chiropractic, Doctor of Chiropractic Philosophy, Fellow of the International College of Chiropractic, CCR, Chiropractic College of Rentgenology, I would guess. Let's take a brief look at 2 of the other larger chiropractic schools. The Los Angeles College of Chiropractic in Glendale, California lists 44 faculty members. 25 list recognized 4-year academic degrees, and 19 list no recognized 4-year academic degrees. Of those who listed recognized academic degrees, 12 were not confirmed when we requested confirmation by the listed granting institution. Another is National College of Chiropractic in Lombard, Illinois, a suburb of Chicago. 25 members of its faculty list recognized 4-year academic degrees. 21 do not list any recognized four-year academic degrees. And here again, 3 of the claimed recognized degrees were not confirmed by the listed granting institutions. There's one more. The president of the Texas Chiropractic College in Pasadena, Texas, has a master's degree from Massachusetts Institute of Technology, one of the world's truly great educational institutions. His master's degree is in engineering. What does he teach? Pathology. In all of the chiropractic schools surveyed, 228 of the total of 267 faculty members listed the spurious DC degree. It's not at all surprising, we think, that no chiropractic school is accredited by any recognized educational accrediting agency in the United States. We have built a factual, objective case about chiropractic, and we think all in the health field, particularly you in the educational field, should join in presenting the facts to the public. The AMA laid the cornerstone last November when its House of Delegates, the policy-making body of all of medicine, adopted a specific statement on chiropractic. The statement says, and I quote, "It is the position of the medical profession that chiropractic is an unscientific cult whose practitioners lack the necessary training and background to diagnose and treat human disease. Chiropractic constitutes a hazard to rational health care in the United States because of the substandard and unscientific education of its practitioners and their rigid adherence to an irrational, unscientific approach to disease causation." Continuing the quote, "In 1965, a United States District Court, in upholding a state's constitutional right to refuse to license chiropractors, said that since chiropractic claims to be a complete and independent healing art capable of curing almost all kinds of disease, the state legislature may have felt that the requirement of a foundation in materia medica and surgery would be a protection to the public. Without dissent, the United States Supreme Court affirmed the decision." Continuing the quote, "The wisdom of these decisions by the nation's highest courts justifies the medical profession's educational program of alerting the nation to the public health threat posed by the cult of chiropractic. Patients should entrust their health care only to those who have a broad scientific knowledge of diseases and ailments of all kinds, and who are capable of diagnosing and treating them with all the resources of modern medicine. The delay of proper medical care caused by chiropractors and their opposition to the many scientific advances in modern medicine, such as life-saving vaccines, often ends with tragic results. I don't know if you know it or not, but chiropractors are against all types of vaccination, publicly in opposition. They're totally in opposition to fluoridation of water supply. In conclusion, I'd like to call your attention to this AMA booklet entitled Chiropractic, the Unscientific Cult. This booklet is an objective compilation of statements and claims contained in books written by chiropractors, in published matter from chiropractors and chiropractic schools, in court testimony by chiropractic leaders, and in teaching materials used in chiropractic schools. Now, before I go any further, it seems that chiropractic is terribly offended because we call them an unscientific cult. This is not our definition. This is not anybody's definition. This is a dictionary definition of what is chiropractic. Chiropractic is unscientific because it's never been able to prove that what it pretends to be able to use as a curative device is scientifically efficacious. It's a cult because it follows the precepts of one man, Daniel David Palmer. Much of the source material in this booklet was gathered by Dr. Joseph A. Sabatier, Jr. of Louisiana, chairman of the AMA's Committee on Quackery. Dr. Sabatier has put together a similarly documentary set of slides, which I would like to show you now. The tape narrative you will hear in connection with the slides is also by Dr. Sabatier.
My name is Dr. Joseph Sabatier. For 10 years, I have been chairman of the Committee on Public Policy and Legislation of the Louisiana State Medical Society and am currently a member of the American Medical Association Committee on Quackery. I've had an opportunity to conduct a continuing study of the scope of chiropractic in order to evaluate and advise the state legislature regarding licensure of chiropractic in our state. The information that has been disclosed in this 10-year study, in addition to the information that has been obtained by the American Medical Association Committee on Quackery, is herewith presented in an effort to place chiropractic in its proper scope. The first slide shows a newspaper ad presented in the Beaumont Enterprise in 1965, which, as you see, presents the chiropractic answer to cancer relief or money-back sensational guarantee, polio treatments free at Spears unless results are satisfactory, multiple sclerosis being mastered through research at Spears Hospital, cancer sufferers finding new hope through recent discoveries, and then the guarantee is presented in the upper right quadrant of the slide. The next slide shows that chiropractic spokesman in 1960 claimed there were 25,000 chiropractors in the United States. The United States Census, however, showed that there were 14,360. This promoted an additional interest in chiropractic and stimulated an attempted evaluation of the whole field of chiropractic, including its origin, its doctrines, its actual scope as opposed to its proposed scope, and the propriety of permitting, without comment, additional legislation which would broaden the utilization of chiropractors and chiropractic by patients. The next slide shows an outline of the sources of information available in this presentation. Most of the information comes from authoritative chiropractic sources. A specific attempt is made to limit the acquisition of information from chiropractic sources to the most authoritative available sources that we could find. We specifically avoided the utilization of the rather blatant individual advertising matter that is available in practically all parts of the United States. Most of the information comes from currently employed textbooks as well as sworn statements by current chiropractic leaders, in addition to journals in chiropractic field at this time. A few medical sources are presented as you see. The next slide has to do with a presentation on chiropractic by Dr. Homewood, who is the Dean of the Canadian Memorial Chiropractic College, and attests as to the origin of chiropractic. In 1895, Daniel David Palmer adjusted forethoracic vertebra of the negro genitor, restoring hearing that had been seriously impaired for some 17 years. Palmer was a grosser and magnetic healer. The next slide is a quote from D.D. Palmer in 1910, quoted by Rogers in 63. Palmer states, "I am the fountainhead of chiropractic. I am the discoverer, developer, and founder of this, the grandest and greatest science the world has ever known." The next slide is from B.J. Palmer, son of D.D. Palmer, and points out the background that D.D. Palmer had, equipping him to found this great science according to his own statement. At one time, our father studied, practiced, and taught phrenology. The next slide is the front page of a book entitled Forward in the Future via Fundamentals by L.M. Rogers, Dr. Chiropractic, who's Executive Director of the American Chiropractic Association. And as you see in the center of the slide, some authentic quotations on the original principles of chiropractic by the founder, excerpts from The Science, Philosophy, and Art of Chiropractic by Daniel David Palmer, published in Portland, Oregon in 1910. The next slide, foreword of this same book, states in the top portion, it must be remembered that while the basic principles of chiropractic are the same as in 1895, considerable progress has been made by doctors of chiropractic through extensive clinical research in the practical application of these principles in keeping with modern interpretation of the scientific age in which we live. This, therefore, is a presentation of statements made by Dr. Palmer in 1910 and published in his book, and attested as to being current in 1963. Here we see some. Next slide shows from this same volume, a quotation from Palmer by Rogers. "I emphatically affirm, as I did 13 years ago, that about 95% of diseases are caused by displaced vertebrae. The other 5%, including corns and bunions, come from luxated joints other than those of the backbone." In other words, this is the authoritative, authentic background information, the current thought in chiropractic in 1963. Next slide, from the same book. "The science of chiropractic has given us the cause of disease, knowledge for which humanity has been hungering since the dawn of civilization." And then, again, Palmer being quoted authoritatively by Rogers in 63. Next slide, from Kimmel in 1961 in the National Chiropractic Association Journal in 1961. stating the basic principle on which chiropractic was founded is the principle of nerve irritation of the intervertebral foramen, which is caused by a subluxated vertebra. Incidentally, a subluxation is a partial dislocation. The next slide, from Jancy, Hauser, and Wells. Jancy is currently the president of the National College of Chiropractic in Lombard, Illinois. In a book entitled Chiropractic Principles and Technique, published in 1947, currently employed in many chiropractic schools. The following statement is highlighted. Vertebral subluxations, therefore, are the cause of the production and continuance of disease. The next slide, from B.J. Palmer, 1949, highlighted as follows. The chiropractor pays little, if any, attention to symptoms or pathologies. To the chiropractor, there's only one disease, one cause, one cure. The next slide, from Logan, in a book entitled Basic Technique, which is currently employed as a standard text in several chiropractic schools. A statement is made. Chiropractic philosophy provides that subluxation is the cause of disease. The next slide, from B.J. Palmer, back in 1920. States all cancers, no matter in what part of the body, have one and the same cause. They are produced by hindered mental impulse, but the effect of these impeded impulses show their dissimilarity in the great diversity of cancers. The next slide, in 1949, B.J. Palmer states chiropractic principle has the vertebral subluxation as the cause of all disease, and chiropractic practice has the vertebral subluxation adjustment as the cure of all disease. Thus we see the same erroneous doctrine pervades chiropractic thought from its origin up through at least 1949. Next slide, from Jancy, Hauser, and Wells, published in 47, and currently being utilized as a textbook regarding typhoid fever. A few specific statements are highlighted. What is the primary cause of the disease? This bacillus is not, however, the primary cause. This primary cause is subluxation of vertebrae. Next slide, from a book entitled Rational Bacteriology, by Verner Wilde and Watkins, published in 1953, utilized in 1965 by several schools. A statement is made, artificial immunity is both worthless and injurious. Next slide, from the same book, stating that both gonorrhea and cerebrospinal meningitis respond readily to non-medical methods. The next slide, from the same book, currently employed in several chiropractic schools. Toxoid has no effect on tetanus or its properties. Tetanus antitoxin and toxoid, along with diphtheria antitoxin and toxoid, ought to be outlawed since they are not only worthless but injurious. The next slide, from the same book, states typhoid, diphtheria, tetanus, rabies, and tuberculosis. These 5 inoculations should be prohibited. This is the current teaching in chiropractic schools at this time. The next slide is a picture of the front of the book entitled Anything Can Cause Anything, published by W.D. Harper, who is the Dean of the Texas College of Chiropractic. It might be pointed out at this time that practically all current chiropractic publications, as well as those of the past, are published by the authors and are not available for public library or university library distribution. There is a rather complex piece of mathematical formulation on the front of the book, leading up to the statement that disease equals health. Next slide, from the same book, points out that it can be mathematically, the insinuation is that it can be mathematically proven that anything equals anything over anything. This is difficult for some of us to understand. Next slide, entitled Scope of Practice, is introduced in order at this time to recount the scope of practice as presented to patients as well as to legislators. In general, patients who patronize chiropractors and even those who send patients to chiropractors have the general concept that chiropractors limit their activities to a few discomforts of the bones and joints as well as muscles, and that the chiropractors in general have available types of manipulation and massage that is not available through the orthodox physician's prescription. Of course, the medical profession feels that there is a place for properly applied physical therapy, that physiatry is certainly a recognized portion of medical practice, but it should be applied with a proper concept of disease causation and disease processes, as well as proper concept of normal physiology. In contradistinction to the scope of practice as presented to patients and legislators, we find the following information of use in evaluating the scope of practice as taught in chiropractic schools. In a book entitled Science and Logic of Chiropractic, as shown in this slide, Verner states that there is no one who cannot benefit by chiropractic. This book is employed currently in several chiropractic schools as a standard text. It was published in 1956. The next slide from the same book, Verner's Science and Logic of Chiropractic, currently used in 1965, highlights the following statements: indications and applications of chiropractic. It frequently has been employed in post-traumatic cases, surgical shock, obstetrical cases, prenatal care, the infections, neuroses, and psychoses, and all other acute and chronic conditions. And further down, there is some kind of chiropractic care for every conceivable problem of health or disease. The next slide is from Anything Can Cause Anything, and as you see underlined in the below portion of the slide, psychotherapy today. Chiropractic corrects abnormalities of the intellect as well as those of the body. The next slide is taken from Basic Technique by Logan, published in 1950 and currently employed in many chiropractic schools. And underlined, we would say that its application is specifically indicated in pregnancy. The next slide, again from Logan in 1950, currently employed in chiropractic schools. Reading the highlighted portion. More can be done to improve body chemistry by a lift strategically placed on the side of deficient support of the body, and by adjustments properly applied, than through the administration of any foreign material in an attempt to compensate for disturbed function of affected glands. Of course, this is applied to diabetes and the utilization of insulin. The next slide, again from Logan, appendicitis, ovaritis, or even neuritis in their acute stages may be instantly relieved or entirely corrected by a few adjustments. The next slide is again from Logan in 1950, currently employed. Double chins, pendulous abdomens, heavy vibrating buttocks, or toneless sagging mammary glands are owed largely and primarily to distortion resulting in atony of supporting softer tissue. And further down on the same slide, it is a certainty that all cases of atony and prolapsis will respond to Basic Technique at the proper time. The next slide from Koski in a book entitled Non-Surgical Cure of Appendicitis and Mastolitis. The outline of the treatment of acute appendicitis is offered, and the following statements are highlighted. First, to flush the large intestine. Second, vibrate the appendix area with a heavy vibrator. And third, palpate the lumbar spine very carefully and adjust the rotating lumbar vertebrae. Remember, this is a treatment of acute appendicitis. Next slide. B.J. Palmer in 1955 regarding the scope of chiropractic. Highlighted is the following statement. Quote, patient can come to the B.J. Palmer Chiropractic Clinic, Davenport, Iowa, and be deaf, dumb, and blind, not telling or indicating anything, and we could and would locate the cause of whatever, wherever he had, adjust him, and send him home well. It is as simple as that. Next slide, again from B.J. Palmer. Question 64, what can chiropractic do for venereal disease? In the lower portion of the answer 64, we can do nothing for venereal disease, facts, but we can drive it into a vertebral subluxation if we are ill on subluxations. Question 65, what has chiropractic done for leukemia? Answer 65, answer 64 applies here with the same effect. Next slide is taken from transcript of a trial in 1949 in New Orleans, at which time a chiropractor was being prosecuted for practicing medicine without a license. Here we have Dr. James R. Train identified as president of the Texas Chiropractic College. The next slide. Dr. Train is asked, then you would tell the man, it is my opinion that the mosquito does not carry malaria? Answer, yes, that you have subluxated vertebrae that causes malaria. And question, suppose it were bubonic plague. The lower portion of the answer, I would fully examine his vertebral column and see whether or not he had his bones out of alignment. Next slide, from the same trial. What is your theory about tetanus, Dr. Train? Is that due to subluxated vertebra? Answer, which one are you talking about? Question, I'm talking about lockjaw. The kind you get through stepping on a nail or something of that kind. Answer, if you step on a nail, that shocks you and subluxates the vertebra, and that locks the jaw. The adjustment relaxes the subluxation and relieves it and unloosens the jaw. Next slide. From the same trial, December 49, identifying Ben L. Parker as the dean of the Texas Chiropractic College. Question, I ask you if chiropractors would undertake to treat a case of diphtheria by adjusting the spine. Answer, yes, sir. The next slide. So again, asking Dr. Parker, who is the dean. So you have in your clinic a person who has a malignant growth, and you are treating him by adjusting his spine. Answer, yes, sir. And the next slide is taken from the transcript of a trial in March 1965 in New Orleans. at which time Jerry England and a group of chiropractors sued the State Board of Medical Examiners for limiting their activity by refusing licensure to practice chiropractic. The next slide identifies Dr. Joseph Jancy as president of the National College of Chiropractic. The next slide, Dr. Jancy is asked, how does chiropractic treat meningitis? The lower portion of the answer, the giving of chiropractic adjustment. Next slide, the court, Dr. Jancy is asked, what do you do with a patient while you are making up your mind as to whether he has meningitis? Answer, this is Dr. Jancy. I would give this patient a careful chiropractic adjustment. The next slide shows an answer that Dr. Jancy gave. No, we do not employ the procedures of artificial immunization. The next slide, again, Dr. Jancy, you mean you hesitate to use immunization? Answer, I think that any person hesitates to use the heroics of artificial immunization, especially in tetanus. Question, well, do you use tetanus toxoid or polio vaccine on your patients? Answer, no, we do not use it. Personally, we do not use it. Next slide. Question, again for Dr. Jancy, what specific centers would you adjust for tetanus? Answer, to normalize the vasomotor extension, of course, you would adjust in the lower lumbar spine. This is in 1965, the president of the National College of Chiropractic talking. The next slide. Dr. Jancy again, what is the chiropractic treatment for polio? Answer, the chiropractic treatment for polio is adjustment primarily. Next slide. Again, Dr. Jancy, who teaches out of his book, currently employed in his own school and several others. And the highlighted portion directly quoted, careful circular fingertip manipulation over the precordium results in a definite relaxation of the coronary arteries and has been advocated in the treatment of angina and other conditions. And lower down on the same slide, contact at the base of the right big toe is frequently employed in reflexly treating the liver and gallbladder. Next slide. Back in the same trial in March 1965, Harper, the man who wrote Anything Can Cause Anything, and is the dean of the Texas College of Chiropractic at this time, is asked, Dr. Harper, did you hear Dr. Jancy testify? The witness, yes, sir. The court, do you agree with his testimony that he gave? The witness, basically, yes, sir. The next slide, again from Dr. Harper. Dr. Drain was asked about spinal meningitis, and we find that chiropractics can adjust them with good result. Is that your recommended treatment? And Harper answers, yes. The next slide, Harper is asked, in other words, I could think myself into a subluxation. Answer, you could. Now, pardon me, may I say one thing? That is one of the, as a perfect example, I have suffered today from the irritation of being up on this stand. Question, you mean you think I'm giving you a subluxation? Answer, yes. Next slide. Again, Harper, could you tell us what vertebra is affected by cross-examination? Answer, all of them. Question, so that the gamut of diseases is possible as a result of being a witness? Answer, chronic irritation of the nervous system. Question, you could get polio? Answer, it's possible. The next slide. Harper again makes the following comment in 1965. Remember, this is the dean of the School of College of Chiropractic in Texas. And this school is labeled by the American Chiropractic Association as one of the 3 outstanding schools of chiropractic. The dean speaking. Many of the things that we have said were the fundamentals of this profession and said was so are not necessarily in conformity with the facts of anatomy and physiology. Next slide. Chiropractic itself has an opportunity to look at itself and to publish some authoritative statements in this regard. A few of these are shown. Next slide. First of all, in the Annals of the Swiss Chiropractic Association, you see highlighted the contents of the chiropractor is founded on his academic training. Such a course of study can only be followed in the United States. So if we evaluate chiropractic education in the United States, we have evaluated chiropractic education. The next slide is taken from the catalog, 1965 catalog of the Texas Chiropractic College. It shows a total of 10 faculty members on this faculty. These people teach the wide range of subjects from obstetrics and gynecology, eye, ear, nose, and throat, as well as basic sciences. And as you see, there is one degree, one recognized degree above bachelor's degree. This is a master's degree. held by W.D. Harper, who is the dean. This master's degree is in engineering from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. He instead teaches pathology and principles. Might be pointed out that no chiropractic degree is recognized by any accrediting agency in the United States. No chiropractic college offers any course that is recognized for credit by any other school in the United States. No chiropractic college is fully accredited even by the American Chiropractic Association. The next slide is a comment from B.J. Palmer in 1952. This is presented in an effort to put in proper perspective many of the comments regarding the alleged length of time it takes to accomplish a chiropractic education. We have said before and we repeat, give us a student who has straight line thinking, and in 30 days we can make him into a simple chiropractor who can and will go forth and get more sick people well than any physician, surgeon, or practitioner of any other so-called health profession. Next slide. Here we have the issues confronting the delegates and members of the American Chiropractic Association as they seek to solve the problems of education. This is by Dewey Hansen, PhD, who is the Director of Education of the American Chiropractic Association. This was presented at the annual convention in 1964. Next slide. A quote from this report. At least three things are necessary. More adequate financial support. Second, more time in which to make necessary improvements in client staff and students. And third, more and better research to explain and establish the nature of chiropractic as a science and art. 1964 statement. Next slide from the same report. Accreditation is one thing which distinguishes all other healing art professions from chiropractic, for it is the only one among them which does not enjoy that status. The next slide from Kimmel, published in the Journal of the American Chiropractic Association in November 1964. He states there has not been any major contribution in chiropractic for at least 25 years, in the opinion of this writer. This man is a delegate from New York to the American Chiropractic Association. Next slide, from the same article by Kimmel, November 64. There is a great attitude of mistrust, fear, and hostility towards the betterment of chiropractic education. From the same article, Kimmel states that frequently to rationalize, we hear that chiropractic is so far ahead that we don't need to do research. Our profession is waiting for the rest of the scientific world to catch up to us. Nothing could be further from the truth. Next slide. Kimmel again. And I read the whole slide. We've all heard that you don't have to know the basic sciences to succeed in chiropractic. All you've got to know is how to build a practice and how to palpate, locate, and adjust. That's all. Innate will do the rest. Have you ever heard we don't have to know how to diagnose a disease because we don't treat diseases. We simply adjust subluxations. If you study too much or know too much about the basic sciences, you can't be a good chiropractor because you will become confused with too many facts. Next slide. Kimmel in 1961, commenting on instrumentation, and I quote the highlighted portion. I would be guilty of a breach of professional ethics if I failed to mention an aspect of instrumentation here before neglected. The use of, or even the mere presence of, some elaborate or pretentious pieces of equipment in the office may serve to influence the patient favorably. More important is the feeling of confidence it might give to the doctor. Next slide is from Ramir, who is on the faculty of the Palmer School of Chiropractic, taken from a book entitled Modern X-ray Practice and Chiropractic Spinography. And he gives several reasons why the chiropractor should spinograph every case or make an X-ray of the backbone. I quote, A, it promotes confidence. C, it creates interest among patients. D, it procures business. E, it attracts a better class of patients. F, it adds prestige in your community. G, it builds a reliable reputation. H, it is an investment and not an expense. I, it provides good interest on your investment. J, its income makes it possible to arrange a better service. K, it enables one to care for more patients daily. The next slide. Medicine has had an opportunity to evaluate chiropractic primarily in an attempt to advise legislative bodies concerning legislation in health fields, in addition to which occasionally members of medical professionals have had opportunity to comment regarding chiropractic in lawsuits concerning practicing the healing arts. The next slide shows the statement of the deans of 4 New York medical schools in March 1963. And the next slide from this report, and I quote verbatim the highlighted portion. Is there any great medical advance which has stemmed from chiropractic? Is there one single human illness which any man here will testify is better diagnosed and treated by chiropractic than medical science? Can any fraction of the extended lifespan of Americans be traced to the contributions of chiropractic? Has chiropractic developed or discovered any of the vaccines, antibiotics, drugs, or hormones, or X-ray or radiation therapy techniques which play such a large part in treating human illness? If not, may we not reasonably ask just what place this pseudo healing art has now fighting against human illness and suffering? Next slide is the first page of a brief from the College of Physicians and Surgeons of the province of Quebec to the Royal Commission on Chiropractic in June 1963. And the next slide, and I quote from the last sentence of this slide: chiropractic has never been able to extricate itself from the errors in which it fell by its own hands 68 years ago. The next slide, entitled Comment, and we might comment at this time that this brief look into authoritative word from chiropractic sources and abundant additional documentation is available to back up the statements that have been made and to verify the fact that a most unrealistic approach has been presented by chiropractic originally, and chiropractic has not changed in any fashion from the original erroneous doctrine that was present at its birth. We believe that condoning chiropractic for human beings is an error. We believe that those human beings who advise patients to go to chiropractors are not aware of the erroneous principles that guide the practice of chiropractic. We agree with Dr. Blassingame, as shown in the next slide, that while chiropractors are licensed in many states, their licenses are limited and they are prohibited from prescribing medicine or drugs and from practicing surgery. Licensure statutes in the several states are an attempt at control rather than legislative recognition of the validity of chiropractic. We would like to point out, however, that the unintended but nonetheless present implied degree of endorsement by licensure of chiropractic is in itself an additional danger, in that the unsuspecting individual, uninformed in this technical field of health care, wrongly assumes that there is a legislative degree of endorsement present in chiropractic licensure. The next slide points out in an AMA editorial in 1964 that unless provoked, doctors of medicine have tended to ignore cultism rather than dignify it with attention, and physicians should be more aggressive in educating the public as to the falsity of chiropractic claims, and the career in chiropractic is really a career in cultism. Now, we would like to point out at this time that chiropractic schools have never received any support from local funds. Chiropractic schools have never been able to obtain state-supplied money. It is true that the GI Bill of Rights permits individuals to study chiropractic under provisions of the benefits in this program. However, the GI Bill of Rights is most broad in its provisions of educational benefits without the implication or insinuation that an endorsement of any of the fields in which such studies are undertaken is present. We like to point out that at this time, unless chiropractic can come forth with information of a scientific nature to back up its claims, unless it will present its claims before all in the scientific community to evaluate and either establish or refute, then we must agree with B.J. Palmer, who states that there can be no merger between medicine and chiropractic. As an illustration of the danger of legalization of chiropractic and granting of licensure by licensing boards composed of chiropractors, we'd like to point to the next slide in B.J. Palmer's book entitled Answers in 1952, at which time he quotes a question asked in a chiropractic state board examination. Question: what are the principal functions of the spine? Answer: to support the head, to support the ribs, and to support the chiropractor.
There's just one more small item I'd like to take your time and tell you about. On July 21st, just about 10 days ago, 3 chiropractors and 19 chiropractic students, 18 of whom were from Palmer, 1 from Lombard College and National College of Chiropractic in Illinois, were indicted in a real scandal on basic science examinations out in Sioux City, Iowa. This is a federal grand jury indictment. One of the persons indicted is a faculty member, at least an instructor at Palmer. 2 of them are practicing chiropractors in Tacoma, Washington. And as I say, the others are either students at Palmer and Davenport or Lombard in Illinois. They were selling either the answers to the basic science exams or in some cases even the basic science certificate. How they obtained them is yet to be determined, for as much as $3,300. Now, we are pretty well convinced that the chiropractic education in the 23 states in the District of Columbia that have basic science board examinations, that the chiropractic examination is nothing more than a cram course to pass the basic science exam. They're not getting a medical education in the basic sciences, they're just getting a cram course for the exam. But even that isn't enough. They're out buying the exams and selling them at tremendous cost. This case will probably the arraignment was to be yesterday in Sioux City of the 22 people indicted. I talked to the United States Attorney last week, and he thought the thing would come to trial possibly within 1967, but most assuredly in the spring of 1968. There will be other indictments, he assured me. Exactly what's involved, I don't know. There are the students and faculty members and chiropractors who are indicted come from 13 states. Examinations in 6 states are involved, basic science exams, or parts of licensing exams.